Under the next tutorials, we're going to look at two features that are in CyberLink Power Director 12, which is a consumer level video editing package. It's not recommended the video editing package to use. It's low end. It doesn't really have any of the add-on packages such as Boris or GenArt software integration with Adobe After Effects. It's not something that we use, but we use two features that are part of this program. One is the creation of a 3D/2D Blu Ray to play inside of a Blu Ray player. So CyberLink will create a Blu Ray that if you have a 3D Blu Ray player connected to a 3D television, it'll play in 3D. And if you have a 2D Blu Ray player connected to a 2D television, it'll play in 2D. And if you have a 3D Blu Ray player connected to a 2D television, it'll also play in 2D. The vast majority of the market is still 2D, and we had to come up with a solution to create one disc that it'll automatically sense the hardware you have and make a determination of whether it's going to play in 2D, and it uses what's called the MVC codecs format to wind up achieving that goal. The second thing we're going to look at is some quickie little conversion technology they have as part of their program to convert 2D to 3D, including film and also photos. It doesn't work great. It's not at Hollywood level, but I use it occasionally if I have some money shots like great white sharks and I'm sitting in a cage from South Africa. I can take those clips and put them in the positive space, and no one can tell the difference as long as I sparingly do it and I don't get greedy. So usually on 2D to 3D conversion assets using this program, I will have no more than 10% of the entire production using that technology, and frankly the viewers can't tell. Now you may have some stereoscopic expert can tell, but the average person cannot tell that you converted it from 2D to 3D. In this lesson right now, we're going to take a look at how to create a 2D, 3D Blu-ray, because the ultimate thing is that you have to pass out these one-offs, the people that may look at your projects, and you want to do it quick, and you want to do it in the file you rendered. Be able to burn it and get it to somebody right away. You don't want to go and have to go to a production house and have a production run that every time you make a change that they're going to charge you $500 for a new glass plate stamp to make the Blu-ray. And this is an easy way to do it. Once again, the program, you can get it for about $60. I'm going to go in the CyberLink Power Director right now. We'll take a look at what's going on. It brings up these JPEGs that are part of the program. I just highlight them all and I say remove from the library. And then I'll go into Explorer and I'm going to bring up the actual file for 3D Coral Reef Aquarium, which is one of our completed movies. I'm going to drag that file, which was rendered out of Premiere Pro, into CyberLink Power Director 12. So I'll pop it in here and it automatically recognizes that it's a 3D file. Now we saw before that under the Vision 3 Imaging S3D plugin for Adobe Premiere Pro, we can have multiple views, a left eye, right eye, and a side-by-side. I render it out on a side-by-side, and CyberLink recognizes that as a 3D file, but I can right-click on here and come in the Set 3D Source, and it has side-by-side 2D or over-under format. Automatically recognize it as a side-by-side format. If it didn't recognize it, then once again you right-click on the file, come into Set 3D Source Format, and you put it as a side-by-side format. So I then wind up taking this particular file and I'll drag it down into the timeline, and you can see it reading the files along here, and that takes a little while for it to do. It's kind of slow. But what I want to do on this Blu-ray, it starts out with the chapter 1. I want to create additional chapters, because my movie has got 8 chapters in it, along with credits and a slideshow and some supplemental chapters that are on there. So I just click this little button here that has 1, 2, 3, and it starts to allow me to create chapters really easy. So on this one, I'm going to right click, I'm going to rename chapter, and we'll just put play movie. And bam. And then I come along to my point that I'm looking for the next cutoff point, logical cutoff point, and that is where our chapter starts in here, which is the shallow shore. So I'm coming in, I'm trying to find that spot, and I went too far here, so I'll bring it back because I want a piece of black film that doesn't have anything on it, and I can use these controls to go backwards or forwards 1 frame. So I'm just taking it forward. And then in here, I click on this little C with the plus button. I click it on here and it creates another chapter at that point. So you're looking and you go, oh, well, that's cool, but it's black film. I don't want black in there. That's okay. All you do is hit the forward button. It's going to play through your film until you get to a scene that's in part of that chapter that you like. So I'll just stop it right here, and I come down to this little check mark button and click it, and now it's set the point on the film that that is what is going to wind up showing up on the menu. So that's a quick way to go through your film, and you can grab your film and stretch it out and bring it forward, etc. But that's what we use CyberLink to do, is to come along and bring our left-right eye in and then start setting these chapter play points. So I'm going to stop it for a second, then I'm going to bring back the file again where I have all the chapters laid out, and then we're going to move forward on actually burning a 3D Blu-ray. All right, so I'm back, and what I've done is I've gone and laid out all of these chapters, which are part of the movie. Within here, I have 11 different chapters. And once again, if I hit that chapter room button, it's brought them all up. I've named the chapters the way I want them. I have the chapter names, I have credits, I have a little promo video from the Mexican government, a slideshow, and which is interesting that we'll actually go over how to make a slideshow and make a supplemental chapter with music and all this other stuff, which is really cool. In here now, I'm ready to create my Blu-ray. Up here they have capture, edit, produce, and create disc. So in here I'm going to go to create a disc, and it brings up this menu structure here to create a disc. And what happens is you click on what's called menu preferences. In here they have templates that you can wind up choosing to use. I just happen to like this particular template, but there's all different sorts of templates which are in here that you can use. And you can also go out to their Power Director zone, and they have a bunch of other different templates. But I come in here and I'll click on this menu structure, and in here it automatically brings up and segregates these chapters 3 to a page. So in other words, on this first page, I come in, of course you edit your text and edit these symbols which are down, edit the text which is down here. You can adjust your fonts, you can do bold, italic, where you want that text to appear, but it actually puts 3 chapters to a page, and you have to come in and then name whatever the Blu-ray is. Once again, that these are for one-offs for you to be able to turn around and produce your 3D Blu-ray. But what's nice, it automatically programs for you all of these back, up, forward buttons, play movie button. It adds all that in there. What happens is the standard templates come with this cheesy kind of music which is there, and which is at the opening scene for each one of these subtitles. You just delete it out, and then you click this plus button. You can actually go in and search for the music that you want to be in there regarding your menu structures. At that point, you come into a 3D disc, you pick a Blu-ray. It's automatically, because you did the 3D disc, it's going to do the movie format. You determine your screen size you want, also the way that you want to render it, which is 1920 by 1080 24p, which is really the Blu-ray standard. You have a quality, there's like only one selection in there. What you then do is say burn to a 3D Blu-ray. And what it's going to do, like if I come in here and say burn to a 3D Blu-ray, it then asks me where I want it. I never choose this burn the disc. I always choose to create a folder. And then you define where you want that folder to show up. And you come to, I just pick my desktop and I burn it, and it creates a folder structure in there that you then can wind up burning to a Blu-ray. So that's how simple and easy it is to really be able to make a menu structure using this, and it creates a Blu-ray that if you put into a 2D Blu-ray player, it's going to play in 2D, or a 2D Blu-ray player connected to a 3D TV, it plays in 2D, or if you have a 3D Blu-ray player connected to a 2D TV, it plays in 2D, and a 3D Blu-ray player connected to a 3D TV, it plays in 3D. It handles all that for you. Now, another solution, because Adobe Premiere Pro and Final Cut Pro and some other programs don't have the ability to make a 3D Blu-ray, a lot of people go out and they get Sony Vegas Pro, but it doesn't have the simple ability to really create a menu structure. The program's $6.99. I didn't want to blow $699 to just make a 3D Blu-ray. And both of these programs have a maxed out limit of 24 megabytes per second on creating a Blu-ray. So what happens is, a lot of times on these discs, especially this one, it shows me that it's going to be 19 gigs down here. When it burns and creates a Blu-ray, that disc comes down to 14,000 megabytes, or about 14 gigs, which means I'm losing quality. And the reason for that is because both Sony Vegas Pro and also Cyberlink limit the maximum throughput to 24 megabytes a second. If you want to get higher than that, then you have to go to a professional company which actually does separate left-right strings as part of the render process. The main program being used is really Cinerest, and that's about a $45,000 program. So when you're completely done with your movie and you like what you're doing, you then have to take it to a Cinerest expert. They charge about $2,000 to redo your menu structures and do a left-right eye, which then goes to the manufacturing house, and because it's done with Cinerest, that'll make sure that it plays on all 3D Blu-ray players. I use this program because it's part of testing the 3D and making sure that we don't have too much eye strain. The only real way to test it is to view it on an 80-inch screen, and we take it over to our big screen TV. So burn these discs and then take them over to the TV and see whether or not we have too much eye strain on the 3D. And I don't want to take it to a Cinerest guy to have that done every time, and I'm paying $500 or $1,000 a pop to have it manufactured. So we use these for a one-off, and I encourage everyone to go to cyberlink.com. They have a 30-day trial version of this software. Download it, and as I said, before I said we used it for 2 functions, we actually use it for a couple functions, and that is to create the 3D Blu-ray, do some quickie 2D to 3D conversion, and also to create a slideshow, which is a supplemental chapter. So an example, if we come back to our edit mode, we have a slideshow chapter in here that we take our pictures, which are just collecting dust, and we'll do a supplemental chapter and do a slideshow and add some music to it, and it's just a nice little touch. So I'll just play a little bit of it here for you. And we'll see how to do a slideshow. And that music was by Ike Willis, who's a member of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and was in Frank Zappa's band for 17 years. I was in the dorm room with him when Frank Zappa flew him out to Los Angeles from St. Louis, and he became a member of Frank Zappa's band. That's when the two of us were both about 19 years old. So I've known him for about 36 years, and we've known each other our life. So that's the way that you wind up creating a 3D Blu-ray. You save the project. It's easy, it's quick, it's for one-offs, it's for you to see how your film is turning out before you wind up sending it to a production house. So the next lesson we're going to wind up doing is how to wind up doing a quick 2D to 3D conversion, and my philosophy regarding this particular usage, quick and dirty using Cyberlink, and we'll go forward from there. Before we go to the next lesson regarding a quickie 2D to 3D conversion using Cyberlink, I want to make sure that we go on the last step that we were talking about, creating a 3D Blu-ray using Cyberlink PowerDirector 12 Ultimate. We went and burned that particular Blu-ray, created a file folder. Once again, we said do it to your desktop. 3D Coral Reef Aquarium, one of our completed movies. Under here, it creates a file structure of a BD, MW, and certificate. I'm just going to switch my view here real quick to go to the list. Within this, then, that you may wind up looking at it, and you go, man, this is great. And it has the whole file structure just like a 3D Blu-ray. And you can click on here. If you go to a 3D Blu-ray you may buy, it does all that for you. But you got to be careful. First of all, when you have a commercially manufactured Blu-ray that's going to go to retail stores, they charge like a 4 or 5 cent royalty per Blu-ray. The Blu-rays also created out of Cyberlink are not protected, which is part of more professional Blu-ray done under Cinerest and then gone to a manufacturer. So you got to remember, whatever you're tossing out here or burning to a Blu-ray disc, ultimately has no copy protection on it. So you don't want to be selling these things. It's just open to everybody getting hold of all of your material. Now, the last step then is, how do I burn it to a Blu-ray? Because you got to have the medium. Winds up that Cyberlink has a program called Power to Go. And Power to Go has really become the standard Blu-ray burning software that ships with Blu-ray players sold at Fry's and Best Buy and other companies. And I got this software that came with my Asus 3D Blu-ray burner, which, by the way, I have an external 3D Blu-ray player connected to my computer. I don't have an internal one because I can go to the stores and swap them, or if I want to take the external Blu-ray player with me when I'm on a trip, I have that with me. So I don't have an internal Blu-ray player. I have an external Blu-ray player. Power to Go, which they have a couple versions. I have the ultimate version. It's only, once again, it's a really cheap program. It's $49. That comes with a desktop gadget, which is right here. And in order to burn the Blu-ray, you just click on this little expansion button, which is right here, and it brings up this data disk. You put on here where you want to burn it to, and you just take this file folder, expand it, because you don't want to bring the whole file folder over. You just want these two subfolders which were created in there. And you take it and you drag it over. It brings it down into this structure. At that point, you just say burn now. Of course, you have it set to your Blu-ray player that typically will have a maximum gigabyte on it, 25 gigs. I'm just doing an example here. It's really a DVD, which is 4.5 gigs. One of the things we talked about is that the file was about 19 gigs. It was down in Cyberlink. And if I come into my file folder and right click and come to properties, we're going to notice these files sitting inside here are now only 14.9 gigs. And we talked about the limitation that Cyberlink and Sony Vegas Pro are only 24 megs per second. So you're losing quality. And that's why when you go to production and you get this thing final, you really got to get a CineRest guy to render to the left, right. And they're out there. Do a web search. I'll probably post something about people that we found that do it cheap. It goes all the way from $1,500 a Blu-ray all the way up to $7,000-8,000. So if you want to get sucker punched, go ahead and pay the guy the $7,000. When you take it to a CineRest guy, that they will redo the file structures and menu structures, so you can send them a completed Blu-ray that gives an example of the menu structures, but typically you're going to send them a separate left-right eye, and then they build it. The left-right eyes and the menu structures rendered out of CineRest are basically give the manufacturer assurance that this is going to be able to play on all 2D and 3D Blu-ray players, versus the Cyberlink file rendered may not necessarily play on all 3D Blu-ray players, even though it does work with all the Sony 3D Blu-ray player line of Blu-ray players. That's the way that you wind up burning a Blu-ray. What's nice about this program, it's kind of fast. For an hour movie, it takes maybe 10 minutes to burn a Blu-ray. It's not an extensive process, and I didn't talk about it as part of the tutorial lesson. On my i7-3936 core computer, on an hour movie, it takes about an hour to render this file out. It's really fast. They've gotten faster on their engine. Before, when I was using a dual-core portable, it would take 6 or 7 hours to render that file out. Now it only takes an hour, and surprisingly, when we're going through and testing whether we have eye strain, we may do 6 or 7 of these in a day. So we don't have people sitting around goofing off. We're going in and making changes, because you're going to have spelling errors or other items like that, or the convergence point isn't set right, and you can go in and fix that and then be able to burn another Blu-ray. This is the way that we burn a 3D Blu-ray. Once again, you can download this software. It's cheap. I think it's $29. It's really become one of the industry standards and ships with most 3D Blu-ray players. I just went and upgraded to the ultimate version, and that's the way that we burn to a 3D Blu-ray.